Hi, Google team. In this demo, I'll show you how our Botify application securely handle Google Drive files. Our platform ensures that the files are only accessed under the right conditions and the owner decides the security level at the time of linking the file. We have built this application around three layers of security. One is public, owner and user layers. Let's walk through them. We support three security models when linking a Google Drive file to Botify. One is by taking the consent of by taking the file's restrictions privileges given to the file. So if it is a public file, then we are not taking any consent from the owner, right? And anyone accessing the application that is attached to this link can see it without any security constraints. So the second layer is owner security. The owner gives consent once and enables app level sharing. After that, the app or the assistant can access the file without needing per user file share. So the second layer of security that we are using in Botify is the file will be restricted, and since it is restricted, we are taking the owner consent, and I will show you in a few minutes how the owner consent is being taken, or else I'll show it right away. So this is my application, and I am going to attach this application, attach the online source files to this application. So I'll give some name. And let's see the restriction levels. Let's start with the public file. So now the file is being made as public, and if I paste the link, if you see, now the file is public, and the other two layers are disabled because we don't need to have the owner consent, right? So this is how a public file will be attached to our application. Let's say if this particular file is a private file or a restricted file, we'll restrict it. Right? If I paste the URL, yeah, since it is a private file, it will ask for the owner consent. So I'll choose my owner details. So since it is not verified, I'll take the continue, and this email has been added as a tester in our data access layer, not the data, in our audience basically, sorry. Right, so this has been added as a tester Um, so now, like, since it is added, I can access this and I will continue. So, so these are all the six permissions or the consent that I am requesting from the Botify application to the user. He can check or uncheck the things that are only required for this particular for this particular action basically. So if it is done, then we can say continue. Yeah, the Google consent has been, will get a pop-up that it is successful and we are closing the window, consent window, the pop-up window. And and now I'll show you. So the application, like, so this menu item or a conversation starter. So if I click on this CSS questions conversation starter, for this conversation starter or menu item, we have attached the file actually. So we were extracting the content of the file and getting the data from it based on the consent provided by the owner. So we are taking the token, access token from the user based on his consent and storing in our database, particularly for this menu item. And then we are getting the data from it. I'll show the backend code as well. So this is how the we are taking the owner's consent and using the files with proper security. Let me walk you through the code as well. So this is my redirect URL when to open to provide the consent. So basically we are using all these six scopes, and this is the API, or this is the redirect URL that we are using. So if you see it, so we are providing all the necessary information as per the guidelines or the protocol. So once the consent is given, it will take once once the owner consent is given, it will go to this Google redirect URL basically. So that actually this URL is the Google callback URL where we will get the code from that API. So that particular code, if we have the code, then we are creating new parameters for Google OAuth to Google OAuth to basically for getting the token. So these are the Google Auth client ID, Google Auth client secret, Google redirect URL we have used from the Google Cloud client application. So after getting the token, as I mentioned, we were storing the tokens in our database. So along with the basic user details, user email. So we'll store this in Google user collection, basically MongoDB collection. I'll show the user model as well. Yeah. So this is it. So we are just storing the email of the owner, access token, refresh token, token expire set, and file ID. So now I'll explain you how the file content is being read. Actually, there's one more API for it. Let me go through it. So this is it. where we'll pass the parameter actually the URL, the file link actually, the file shared file URL. So here we are parsing it, and so based on the like we are getting the token from the database as I mentioned, right? So we are storing it. So this is a function where we'll connect to that Google user Mongo DB collection, and we'll get the tokens based on the file ID, right? So after that we'll get the tokens, and based on the tokens we'll set the Google OAuth basically, so OAuth 2. So based on that we'll get all the metadata required for getting the file permissions. So these file permissions, as I mentioned, right, we will tell the particular person is the owner of the file, or the person who is opening the file or getting the access to the file is owner or not, or the person with whom it is shared, right? If the file is shared with a link, then we are accessing, and we are mentioning it is allowed for the logged in user to access it. So this is how we are handling the accessing file actually. So I'll show the env where we are storing the env, like the environment variables. So this is my Google OAuth client ID. Basically it's a service account, and this is my secret and the Google callback. Yeah, that's it. And this is how we were taking the user consent and making sure that the files are secured in our Botify platform. So if you have any doubts, you can check with our support team, so that even you will have even you will have clarity. So thanks for the video.